going to be this events tab. So when you're on the dashboard, it's always going to be a green tile that says events on it. When you click into it, it will take you to your upcoming events. If you need to see past events that you've hosted, you can click that in this left menu. You can see drafted events and you can see deleted events. And you can also create event templates, which I'll show in a minute. But on all of these pages, there's always going to be a green create event button. When you click into that, it normally on the first time you make an event, if you don't have any templates, it will always just say blank event template. If you make a template, which I'll show you at the end of the event creation thing, you can save a template and then it will show up as the template. So you click blank event template. It's going to ask you basic information. It's going to ask you the event name, a description of your event, what type of event it is. So if you'll remember when I was on that event page, it was asking, or there was filters for what event type and event tag. So this is where it's helpful for your event to show up. So you're going to want to make sure this event type specifically, since it's a required one, is very accurate to whatever it is. So, oh, excuse me, let's say you're hosting a training, you're going to want to make sure it says training, and then event tags. If it's a career development training, select career development, and you can always select more than one. So if this is something that's engaging the community, so maybe you're doing a training where people from different businesses in the community are coming in and they're talking about how they got to the place they are in their careers, you could do that community engagement tag. If it's an event where someone can just drop in and kind of hear what they want and leave whenever they want, that's a good tag. If there's entertainment, our fan favorites on campus is going to be the free event, free food tags. If there's free food, I guarantee students will come. And so they even sort this events list by the tag free food and giveaways and prizes. That's like the two top, I would say the three top ones. So if you're going to have food at your event, make sure you click free food because it will bring more students there. If it's a leadership event, different things like that. If they're going to do service there, if it's specifically for student organizations or students who are parents, different events like that, just select as many event tags as apply to the event. Then you'll move on and it has the event coordinator. So this is always going to show up as the person who's creating the event. If you need it to be someone else, if there's multiple officers in your portal, you can select from this dropdown. There'll be all of your officers listed here. And then you also can add team members. So if you're going to be using the check-in feature of events, you're always going to want to make sure you add team members because anyone added as a team member is going to be the people that can add attendance physically on their own Triton Connect app. If they're not listed here, they won't be able to add attendance. If your plan is to always do kind of a paper and pen attendance and have someone, a student or someone going on the back end and add attendance, this isn't too important. But if you do want to work towards using that Triton Connect app to do check-in, this team members button is important. So you just click that add button, start typing, and then you can add anyone you want as a team member, and then they will be able to do check-in for you. You can select how you want attendees to contact you. So there is an option on every event posting that says contact the host. And so they can either start a group chat with everyone that's listed here, or it can just send an email to the person that's listed as the event coordinator. That's up to you all. You can choose that for yourselves. Start date of your event, start time, end date, end time, and then you can do custom time instructions. So maybe check-in is from 8 to 8:30. The actual event is from 8:30 to 10. And you want to make sure that your attendees know that. You could add custom time instructions here and it just shows up on the event page, whatever you type here. If there's a recurring event, this is one of my favorite features. In our past system, it wasn't a very easy way to click a recurring event. On this system, if your event is recurring, you can literally ad hoc select any of these random dates and it will show up on those dates as separate events. So that's really helpful. I know in the past it's been, honestly, most systems, it's really hard to add recurring events. So this is very helpful. You can just go through and select all of those. So say you have like a general body meeting with one of your student groups that comes out of your organization or things like that. You can just select all of the dates of that coming up, or maybe a training that you all host, those types of things. You can select all of the dates that apply and you can collapse that or just scroll down. It's going to ask you where the event is. So if it's on campus, off campus, online only, you can type in the location name here. If it's to be determined, so you don't quite have the location ready to go, maybe you're waiting on the Zoom link for someone or something like that, you can just click this TBD event or checkbox, and then it will leave it. It will say TBD on the thing. If you want a specific address, you can go ahead and add that in here. And then you can choose who can see the event location. So for instance, whenever we do a training that involves a Zoom link, we often choose this only display the location to logged on users, or if we're going to be more specific, we can do it to whoever is registered. So that means anyone can see my event. If I said it that way, this doesn't deter who can, or this doesn't determine who can see it. It just determines who can see the event location. So particularly with Zoom, so we can avoid Zoom bombers, it's always the best to do logged on users, if not registered users, because then that makes sure you know that only the people who actually have registered for your event can see the Zoom link, or at least only faculty, staff, and students at Homeschool are the people that can see your link. You could put the meeting link here. It will automatically populate where the meeting is from normally. If not, you can select that app there. And then you can also, if you want the link to say, or you want the location to say, like if it's a hybrid event, for instance, and you want the location to say South Campus Classroom Building number 215, and then there's also a link for the Zoom people, you can choose who can see the meeting link specifically so that people don't have to register to know that they can go to that South Campus Classroom Building. But if they want to do the Zoom option, they do have to register. You can choose that accordingly. Here's where you would add the flyer. And so in the event photo, so the event photo is what's going to show up in those little boxes when we're on the events page. I think I went off of the event page, but we'll go back there. It's going to be this little square that shows up on the left-hand side once the page loads. That's going to be your event photo. Your event flyer is going to be what shows up if we do the calendar view of the events page, which is over here. I'm not sure a lot of people use this view, but if they do, you'll see if you hover over an event, some of them, I'm not sure, people haven't added. If there was a flyer added, it would pop up when I hover over the event here. So that's the difference between the photo and the flyer. It has listed here what the best size is for that picture for the photo. And then moving on, you can add more attachments. Some people have actually been using this food provided button and then specifying what type of food has been provided. It's cool. Some people might be interested. If it's not a big deal, then it's not a big deal. You don't have to add it. Okay, here's where we get to the access and display options. So you can choose who's allowed to register, and you can choose who can see the event. So maybe you want everyone to be able to see the event because maybe you want new students who are touring, who hear that we have Triton Connect, if they go to see like, what's this Triton Connect thing about? They could, or your alumni, they could see like, oh, College of Ed has this really cool event coming up, but then maybe they can't register because they're not a University of Missouri user or campus groups user. So making sure whoever is allowed to register is specific to whoever you want it to be. So a lot of times if you want it to show to everyone that's like logged in, this would just be the University of Missouri St. Louis campus groups users only. You can click here and choose if you just want it to show up to students or just staff and faculty. You can do just your group members. So anyone that's in your portal, if you just want it to show up to them, you can select group members only. You can do some group members only. So maybe that's officers, maybe that's students, staff, or faculty. You can select those all here. Those are I would say the most important ones. If there's questions about other ones, you can also do officers only. If there's questions about other ones, feel free to let me know and I can answer them. You also can select if there's someone registered to another event at the same time to not have them register to the event. The only place that kind of gets tricky is with those, for instance, those ongoing events. So our homecoming service project, if someone was to have registered to that event to make sure they were reminded that that event was happening, they would also not be able to register to your event because the homecoming service project is going on this whole month. So if your event was at that same time, it wouldn't allow them to register for it. Again, for who can see this event, you can do everyone, logged on users only, group members only is going to be, again, the people that are only a part of your portal. And then if you just want it to be whatever you selected up here, if you got very specific with that, you can just say just the people who are allowed to register. And then there is this no one option. I know, for instance, the Triton Pantry, they have They use Triton Connect events to track attendance so they know how many students they're serving. They also use it to kind of keep track, like maybe there's a student who's using the pantry a lot more than they have in the past. Is there something wrong? Do we need to check in on them? But they don't have those events posted on the calendar because essentially it's almost every day. They just have it posted so they can use it on the back end for tracking attendance. So they have it selected as no one can see the events. And then you can choose if you want it to show up on the upcoming events slider or not. I can't think of an example when you wouldn't want it to show up there, but most of that option is there if you want it to. If you don't want people to register the event, you can just select this as no. Just make sure that if up here for the location, you said only registered people, you're going to want to make sure that this registration says yes. And then you can choose to close the event registration. So if there's like the spots are full or things like that, and you can also, excuse me, you can also control how many people can register, but that's farther down. Oh yeah, the attendance limit. So you can choose how many people can register there. I'm trying to think through. So for some reason, under these settings down here, there's this option to send a reminder email to people that are attending or have registered for your event. For some reason, it's automatically always checked to yes. So if you don't want them to get a reminder email about your event, just make sure to always click this and unselect the send reminder. It is nice if you make the event, and for instance, our university programming board, they'll make their events and they'll just change this to say like, we're so excited to see you at our bingo night on Friday, or our bingo night, exclamation point. And then they can just create the event and totally forget about it. But the day before their event, anyone who was interested in the event is going to get an email that reminds them like, hey, UPB is having this event you signed up for. Don't forget to go. So it is a useful tool, but just as a heads up, it's always selected to send a reminder. So if you do not want it to send a reminder, make sure to unselect that. And then you can change what email confirmation people get when they RSVP, or you can turn it off. You can choose who can see the display list of, or who can see the list of attendees that have registered for your event. A lot of times I'll select nobody, but don't think a lot of people are like creeping on the events to see who's going and who's not. There's positives and negatives to both options. So just whatever you think is best for you all in your event. And then also it's always automatically selects to send a feedback request within 24 hours after your event. So if you've checked into one of our events or anyone's events and you've gotten a weird email that was like, how do you rate this event? That's why they probably just didn't notice that they needed to unselect this if they didn't want feedback, or maybe they were wanting feedback. And you do have the cool option if you want to send a feedback request. If you don't add anything here, it will just ask them to rate it like 1 through 5 stars. And that's the email. When they click on the link, it just says like 1 through 5 stars and you can add a comment. But if you want to ask more specific questions for assessment purposes, you can create a form or survey, which I can walk through really quick in a second. And then here you would just select whatever survey you've created in your portal, and then it will automatically send them a link to that survey. And then there's some advanced options. So if you're going to be tracking attendance, I always, for this check-in method, I always just select both methods at the same time. There's a few options there, like you can make it so people can check in multiple times to your event if that's needed for you. You can have them be able to check out if that's helpful. And then if you do have the multiple check-ins, you can change it to like they can only check in multiple times within this many minute period. So if they checked in at 12:10, they can't check back in until 12:15 or 12:25, things like that. If you have a speaker that you want to shout out, you can just add a speaker here, just like ask for some of their basic information. Could be a cool option if you have like a cool speaker coming. You can do the same thing with sponsors if you have an event sponsor. If you have a URL link that they need to be redirected to for some reason after they register to your event, you can put that here. So a good example of this is, for instance, with Chili Feed, which is tomorrow. We sell tickets through the Sodexo website, right? So a student could register to our event we have for Chili Feed on here, but even if they register, that doesn't mean they have a ticket. So we can set it up so that this redirect URL, as soon as they click register, it sends them to the link that says like, you have to buy a ticket to attend this event. And then they can buy the ticket right there. That can be very helpful. You can assign a parent event. So if there's like a group of events, for instance, College of Business, they hosted Ethics Day. They had about 5 sessions that they posted as separate events in here. but they created the Ethics Day parent event. So they all went back to that event. And if you just clicked on Ethics Day, you could see all 5 of the sessions that were hosted within that event. You can set it so they automatically register to other events. So let's say you host like a monthly training that you need the students who attend the first one, they have to keep coming, or they should keep coming to the other sessions you have the other months. You can make it so that they are automatically registered to the upcoming events, and it will have a list of the upcoming events here, and you just check them off. So for instance, we have a student org training that they all have to attend. And so if they registered to our student org leadership education training at the beginning of the semester, I had it so it automatically registered them to all of our training sessions following, so that they at least knew where it was and it was on their calendars. They got a notification.
Some Triton Connect.
And then if there's a co-host, you add them under here. Under co-host, you just like look through these different options. So if it was an officer department, you could go here and you could say that we're hosting this with the College of Nursing. So that's how you add a co-host. And then if you want this to be an event template, so for instance, my student org training that's repetitive, I wanted it to be an event template. So most of my settings were saved. So I didn't have to edit all of those settings every single time. I would just click for this group. And when I click create event, it creates the template for me. So I'm going to put no for now. And then you would just click create event. And once it loads, it'll show you this little, well, this is because it's a student org. It asks this, but if you're doing it in your office or department's portal, it will not ask you these questions. Submit. Then you just click view events and it should pop up there. So we'll have your picture, it will tell you when it is. And then it won't say pending approval. Campus offices and departments don't have to get their events approved, but student groups do. That's why that's here. But it has the event tags and it says how many people are registered. And then this sales will be how many people are checked in. It normally changes to say checked in once there's people checked into that event. But if I were to have created a template, so for instance, this template, when I click into it, it has my event name, description blank, but then the type in all my category or my tags are still there, and the event coordinator is there. And then it just has me edit the details that are probably what need to be edited. So it still says it's on campus. It still like has my settings saved for who can see everything and the picture. All of those things are all saved because I have a template. So if I would have at the bottom again, went to event template and said for this group and then create event, that's how you get the event template to show up. And you can always view those templates by going to the left-hand menu and clicking templates. So that is how you do the events. And then just really quickly before